In this video, we are going to create a Python website. To do this, we are going to use the Django web framework. We will demonstrate how to set up Django and create our first project using virtual environment. Okay, to start this process off, we're going to need to use the command prompt. So under Windows, that would be CMD, command prompt. There we go. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need to do, without ever needing to do this again, this is a one-off process. So we need to install virtual environment. So to do that, we use the pip command, which you should already have installed and set up. If not, check my previous videos. So pip install virtual env and press enter. It will take just a moment, and there we go, nice and quick. All right, that process, installing virtual environment, only ever needs to be done once. Now that it's installed into your main operating environment, your main computer, we never need to do it again. We will use what we've just installed. We will use virtual environment quite regularly, but we never need to reinstall it. So that process is now finished, and we don't need to do it ever again. The next step then is to create a brand new virtual environment for the project that we want to create. So if I'm going to create a new bookstore, I will create a brand new virtual environment to create my bookstore project. So let's do that now. Okay, so we can assume that your brand new project that you're going to create is as a result of your work or your business, or perhaps a university project, etc. Ideally, we need to put our projects in a location where we can readily find them again later on. So my recommendation would be create a dedicated folder on your machine where we create these projects. So on my machine, I'm going to, on my D drive, work within this folder here, just called work. As you can see, currently there is nothing within that folder. So to get there with the command prompt, and I realize many people will know how to do this, but some people don't know how to use the command prompt. So you can see here at the beginning of the line, I'm currently on C drive, C:. To get to D drive, I just type D:, and press enter. Now to see what folders are available, what files are available, I can type dir to get a listing. And straight away I can see a directory is available called work. So to change into there, I say cd, short for change directory, and then the name of the folder, cd work. If I do dir again, no files will be listed, 0 bytes. All right, so I'm currently in the correct folder where we want to work. I'm just going to clear the screen, CLS, clear screen, just so that it's a little bit neater for us to work with. Okay, so to create the project folder, we now have to run another command. We now need to run the virtual env command. This is what we installed at the beginning of the video. So virtual env followed by the name of the environment or the name of the project that we want to create. So I'm going to say books. Press enter and it will establish the virtual environment for us. It won't automatically activate the environment. It is simply just setting it up. All right, it has told us that it's now done, which is good. Now we need to go through the process of actually activating that virtual environment so that then whatever we do is done within that virtual environment. If we go back and have a look at our visual representation of our folder through Windows Explorer, you'll notice that we now have our books directory. This was just created by our command from the command prompt. In here, we have a whole ton of other folders and information, but in particular, the one that we're interested in is scripts and activate.bat. Now, there's no point in double-clicking on that. We don't need to run it from here. We need to run it from within the command line itself in order to activate the virtual environment for the command prompt. So to do that, we just type the name of the folder, so books. We can press tab on the command line once we've spelt out a portion of the file name, and it will do the autofill for us. So once we've typed books, we can then type scripts, SCR, press tab, and then activate, act, tab, full stop, bat. There we go. So books, scripts, activate.bat. Notice how the command prompt has now changed and it's showing us the name of our project, our virtual environment, within the prompt itself. So if I press enter a couple of times, that will remain there. It's informing us that we currently have our virtual environment active. Which virtual environment? The books virtual environment, because it is possible to have multiples of these virtual environments. That, of course, is the purpose, to have multiple virtual environments. The next step is to install Django into our brand new virtual environment project. So to do that, we use pip, install, and then the name of the Django package, which is just literally Django, spelt with a capital D. We also need to supply the version number, just so that we know exactly what we're installing. Okay, it didn't matter with the virtual environment which version, we just wanted the latest one, but when you're working with a framework, it's really important that you know which version you're working with. Okay, so pip install Django 3.0.3, which is the latest version currently. Press enter. Django is now installed in our books virtual environment. Now, if we have a look at our directory structure, dir, nothing has changed as far as we can see outside of our books subfolder. We don't need to go into that books project folder. It's just our environment folder. However, the install process has put some stuff into there so that we can use it. Next, we're actually going to create the Django project. So again, I'll just clear the screen. Okay, so the command to create the Django project is Django admin. Oops, that should be a hyphen. Start project, all one word, followed by the name of the project for Django that you want to create. So my environment is called books because I wanted to create a bookstore. So I will call this my bookstore. Now if I press enter currently, it will create a folder called my bookstore, and inside of that folder it will create another set of folders that contains the brand new Django project. So I'm happy with that. But you can also put a full stop on the end, which will cause it to just create the project in the current folder. All right, so there's a little bit of difference there in that it will put the files where we're currently sitting, which is just the work folder on D drive. However, if we do it without the full stop, it will create us another subfolder. So I will do that. It'll be nice and quick. There we go. And if we type dir again, we can see that we now have a brand new folder called My Bookstore, which was created. So if we change into the My Bookstore folder, cd my, press tab, and it does the autofill for us. Press enter, and dir, we can see the beginnings of our brand new Django project. Whenever we create a brand new Django project, one of the first things that we should always do is a migration on the database that is also created as part of our project. This is the basic administrative security stuff for the Django project. So to do that is quite simple. All we need to do is run the Python command. Actually, I'll just clear the screen so that we can see the command clearly without anything else interfering. So Python manage. Now that's a file, so we can press tab and it'll do the autocomplete for us, manage.py. And the command that we want to activate is the migrate command. So Python manage.py migrate. And so long as your Python was installed in your path, you should have no problems running this program. Operation complete. That created for us, if we say dir, a brand new database, SQLite 3. So this database contains all of the basic administrative setup required for our basic security for our site. Okay, so as it stands currently, bare bones, the Django project is currently set up and working. We can test that by starting the Django server. So we do that, and I'll clear the screen again so we have a nice clear look at the command. We do that by saying Python manage.py. All of our Django commands are run through the manage.py script. So Python manage.py run server. This will take hold of the command prompt and you won't be able to type anything further. So if I bash on the keyboard a little bit here, you can hear me doing that, you'll see nothing's coming out. That's because the Python runtime is using this command prompt. Nothing is visible on the screen, but it is actually working. So we can see here, it's told us that the starting development at HTTP 127.0.0.1 at port 8000. For those of you that don't know, 127.0.0.1 is the local host address, and the 8000 is our port number. So if I open my Chrome web browser, I'll just get rid of this alert. If I open my Chrome web browser and navigate to localhost on port number 8000, I anticipate that I will receive a hello world type screen from my Django server. It'll probably say it's working. There we go. Install worked successfully, congratulations. So, bare bones, without making any actual configuration to our project, we have a Django project up and running and ready for us to start editing it. So let's have a look at how we go about doing that. So now that I have my basic project up and running, I want to personalize it a little bit. I want to actually make a change that I can see. So because Django is all about web pages, we need to consider how we're going to make that change. What path are we going to put it on? So for localhost 8000, we're seeing the current page, or we could put hello, because we'll do a hello world example. So at the moment, if I do localhost port 8000 and the path of hello and press enter, I will get page not found. Okay, that was fully expected. But we're going to go now and set it up so that Django recognizes that URL, that path, and delivers us a hello world type web page. Just a simple web page, nothing fancy. So to do that, we need to use our IDE for Python editing. Open our browser and have a look in our project folder, so our work folder. We can see books, which is our environment folder, and bookstore, which is our Django project folder. Within here, we now have our manage script, which we were using a moment ago to run the server and such. We have our database, DB SQLite 3, and we also have the project folder, my bookstore. So within here, these are the files that actually are being run by the Django server. Importantly, this is also where we need to make our configuration changes to get it to do our hello world example. Now we need to open this directory using our IDE. So I'm using Atom, and if you need to install Atom, there's a card up in the top hand corner of this video showing you how to do that. But if we start Atom, it will look roughly like this. Now Atom has a habit of remembering any files that you had open previously. So if you have any windows open, just click the cross in the corner to close the tab. we need to go to Open Folder and navigate to our Django project. So mine was on D drive, Work, Bookstore, My Bookstore. So that's the folder that I want to open, and select folder. And here we can see the various files that were showing up in the Explorer. So the file that we're interested in at the moment is the urls.py file. This file controls all of the paths for the Django project. Okay, so we need to make some changes to the urls.py file so that our Django project knows which URL path is linked to which resource within our Django project. So we need to import a few things from Django, and it helps if you spell it correctly, conf.urls. We want to import the URL functionality. We also want to import our views file from our local project. So that's from our current project. The full stop represents the current project, the current folder essentially. We want to import our views module. Now we haven't created that yet, but we're going to in a moment. All right. So next we need to add a new entry to our URLs pattern list. Notice the square brackets. This is a list of items, comma separated. So what we're going to add is a new URL. It's going to be a raw string in Python. So I'll put 2 quotes there so we don't need to worry. So it's now a raw string. Everything within here is not going to have any string interpretation done upon it. It is just raw text, exactly as it's typed. So the @ symbol, Shift 6 on the keyboard, says starting at the beginning of the path, I want the word hello followed by a /, but I don't really care if that / is there or not. So I'm going to put a question mark, which means the preceding character is optional. So the / is optional. Now I also don't want anything else following the word hello except possibly the /. So I can put a $sign to say there should be nothing else. That's it. From the beginning of the line, the word hello and nothing else. Now that's the URL path, but Django still needs to know what resource to link it to. So the resource that I want to display or respond to the HTTP request coming in is from my views module, the hello function. Okay, so we'll come back and revisit that in a moment. I'm going to add another comma there just so it's easier to edit the list next time when we have another resource we want to add in, another URL pattern that we want to add in. And that is all we need for our URLs file to start with. The next step then is to create our views module. So over here, if we go right click and new file, views, Python is case sensitive, so please make sure you check your capitalization and spelling. Views.py. Okay, once we have the file, we need to do a little bit of importing of functionality. So we will say from Django in the HTTP library, or HTTP module, we want to import the only 2 T's, HTTP response functionality. And I've spelt that incorrectly also. Response. Okay, note the capitalization. Django is, as is Python, very case sensitive. So it must be a capital H and a capital R. All right, with that functionality included, we can now create a function that's going to use this functionality and respond to the HTTP request that's come in from the remote client. So define our new function. I'm going to call it hello. It accepts a request object. This is the object that contains the information from the remote client about the request that's coming in. Other than that, we don't need to worry about what's in there for now. So from our request, we now are just going to return a HTTP response object that contains nothing but text. So HTTP response, and in here I'm just going to say my traditional hello world. It can be any string, any text, it really doesn't matter. If you wanted to, you could even start putting in your HTML code, etc. But there are much better ways of doing that. So for now, we're just working with the pure hello world example, Django style. Okay, so those two files are now waiting to be saved, so I can go File, Save All. Now, I don't need to restart the server. You'll note in the background here that the command prompt has been doing things. It's been updating the command prompt as we've been making edits. Every time you save a file that's related to an active Django project, the server will automatically update with those brand new changes that you made. So I don't need to stop the server. I don't need to restart the server. I'm going to just leave it alone. So if we go to our web browser, we've already got the address typed in here from earlier. If I press enter, it should now display the text from my HTTP response object, because I'm sending a request when I press enter to the Django server. It's picking up that request on the path hello, forwarding it to the views module and the hello function. So before I press enter there, I'm just going to have a look at that. In the URLs file, the path hello is being sent to the views module and the hello function. So if we have a look at the views module here, we've created a hello function, and it's going to return a HTTP response object that just says hello world. So if we press enter, hello world, it has worked. Fantastic. Our Django style hello world is now working. So we have created our virtual environment for our bookstore. We've then installed Django into our virtual environment. We've used Django to create a new bookstore project. We've migrated the database to set up our basic Django security. We've edited the urls.py file to create the path for our resource request. And we've created an entry in our views file to serve the request back to the client. In this case, our data that we're serving back is just a string that says hello world. As I said, it could be anything. So our first project is set up and working, and now we can get more complicated. Thank you. If you found this video helpful, then click the subscribe button below this video and leave a comment.